So many white jerseys around them.
Edwards thinking three, and popping a three. But the shot clock at 7, the screen, and the 2. And a team that has doubled their wins from last year. They lost the ball. They lost the ball. Now listen, it's still 6 points. There's 21 seconds to go. Edwards at the line, gets the back end of 2. George gliding by midcourt, losing some time right there. McDaniels will defend. Uncorks a 3.
Shot there.
4-point game. Wolves have a timeout, and they get it off right there to Edwards. Drives that baseline, kicks it out. They hold the ball. The clock is ticking. A foul committed by Batum. Picked up by Beverly, and that's all she wrote. The Timberwolves are going to the playoffs.
That's right, the Generals. Oh, excuse me. The Timberwolves. I thought I said Generals. I think of a Washington joke. The Timberwolves are going to the playoffs. They beat the Clippers. They overcome. I think the largest deficit was around 10 or 11, somewhere in there, maybe 9. Come from behind in the second half. Actually, the fourth quarter, they think they were down about 10 heading into the fourth. And right in that neighborhood, someone hit a buzzer beater 3. And the T-Wolves beat the Clippers to head to the NBA playoffs, where they will play, I believe, let's see if I'm doing my math correctly. I think they'll play the 2th seed, which is the Grizzlies. So Patrick Beverly, who just played for the Clippers, has something to say to his former teammates in front of the bench. He's talking shit. Hey, Patrick Beverly, what did you say to your former teammates?
To your old teammates at the end there when you were standing in front of the bench.
Take their ass home.
One more time.
At the end there when you were standing in front of the bench.
Take their ass home. Long flight to L.A. Take y'all ass home.
I love that. Good. Get out of here. That's what the playoffs are all about. Hatred. I love it. Clippers lose on the road to the T-Wolves, and the Nets, they were up by more than 20 at one point against the Cavs. Cavs came back to cover. For those of you that had the Nets plus 9, or excuse me, the Cavs plus 9, they covered. Good teams win, great teams cover. Cavs cover, the Nets move on. Obviously, they're just significantly better at basketball. They have Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, probably the best player in the world. Right? He's getting a little older, but probably the best player in the world. We have more basketball today. Spurs and Pelicans, Hornets and Hawks in play-in games. The Spurs and Pelicans are the ones that don't have a lot of wins. This is the one I can't get over this. This is just ridiculous. The Spurs are 14 games below 500, but here they are playing for a chance to go to the playoffs, I guess. Yeah, that seems legit. All right, let's move on to some news. We have some news in the National Football League. Congress has been investigating the Washington football team's improprieties, their sexual improprieties, perhaps going as high as ownership. However, that's hard to prove, and people don't care as much as they do about money. Now, the U.S. House Oversight and Reform Committee is exploring potential improprieties within the Washington Commanders organization, and now they suggest that some things could possibly be illegal. I'm reading this on Pro Football Talk, but the Washington Post, as you can see right there, were the ones that reported it. There was a letter sent from this oversight committee to the Federal Trade Commission asking them to investigate. Is that good for Washington? No. No, it is not. So I have the letter here. I'm going to bring it up for you and see. This is what Congress does to us when they don't want us to see anything. They just... Look at that. Look how small that is. So here's the quote. Quote, this new information on potential financial misconduct suggests that the rot under Dan Snyder's leadership is much deeper than imagined. It reinforces the concern that this organization has been allowed to operate with impunity for far too long, said Chairwoman Caroline Maloney. So what's happening here? I'll tell you. It appears as if 2 different things have happened, that Dan Snyder ripped off both the fans, like obviously, and also his co-owners. What they would do is cook the books. They would make it look like the stadium, which is owned and operated, I don't know if it's owned, it's definitely operated by the Washington Commanders football organization. The stadium would write off money earned from Commanders games, which is by law to be shared with the league. That's their agreement. And he would make it look like it came from other events like concerts and even the Army-Navy game, you crook. And now the other owners are like, bruh, that's my fucking money. And then also, they withheld like an insane amount of money from season ticket holders who were due refunds during COVID. There's a bit of a the show, there's a bit of a reboot coming out. So this is a good time to say this. One of the most impactful quotes from that movie is, if you follow the drugs, you're going to find drug dealers and drug fiends. But if you follow the money, you have no idea what you're going to find. The deeper meaning of the quote is, of course, that money is more important. So yes, they probably sexually harassed and sexually assaulted a bunch of people, but that's hard to prove. And in this country, I don't know what book you need to read, but people don't really care that much. A billionaire ripping off other billionaires, not good. They're going to make him sell the team. That's my prediction. I thought that the sexual stuff would just be annoying. I didn't think it would actually happen, but this will be it. He won't be an owner soon. We have other enormous football news. So this is a conspiracy. This is a conspiracy theory that I first heard listening to the Yahoo "You Pod to Win the Game" podcast, which is a terrible name for a podcast. R.I.P. to Russ Paler, who passed away suddenly at the age of 37. That happened like days before the Super Bowl last year. Very tragic, weird situation. Didn't seem like it was anything that you would expect for someone who passed away suddenly in the media. It looked like it was just a random medical condition. Regardless, that used to be his podcast, and now this is what we're finding out. Bill Belichick, remember, he sent those texts, and everyone was like, Bill Belichick, he kind of blew the lid on this thing, and he sent text to the wrong Brian. Remember, he said text to Brian Flores, and it was meant for Brian Daboll. However, those texts leading to Brian Flores' lawsuit put in a chain of events, things that are now being uncovered that is absolutely crazy. In Brian Flores' lawsuit, he alleged that Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, had been colluding with the quarterback of another football team. It has now come to light that that quarterback was Tom Brady on a yacht somewhere in South Florida, and this was the plan. Are you paying attention? This has been reported by the Boston Globe. It has been supposed by Pro Football Talk, who has reported heavily on it, and Charles Robinson at Yahoo was suspicious that this was exactly what was happening. Pay attention to the plan. The plan was for Brady to, quote, retire. Remember when Brady retired and he didn't say goodbye to Boston? That's because he wasn't fucking retired, ever. He was never retired. He was using retirement as a chess move so that they would trade him where he wanted to go because he signed a contract that was too many years. Stupid. At that age, bro, it's 1-year contracts only. Dumb. So the plan was for him to retire, to force Tampa to trade him where he wanted to go, which would be Miami, who would, under the table, promise Tom Brady an ownership stake in the team and to become president of operations when his football career concluded. And this is the kicker, that they were colluding to bring Sean Payton to the Miami Dolphins. This was all supposed to happen. Remember, Stephen Ross, the Michigan alumni, he's obsessed with them. Then the Brian Flores lawsuit comes out, and with Stephen Ross being investigated for theoretically offering money to purposely lose games, something that's still being investigated, by the way, they decided to stop it. So pay attention. Did you hear that? Tom Brady was going to fake retire so that he could then get traded to Miami, where he would get an under-the-table ownership stake in the team, which he will get an ownership stake in somebody's team, I'm sure. He would get an ownership stake in the team, okay? And then they would get Sean Payton. They can't hire a white coach and a white president of operations with an under-the-table ownership stake after Brian Flores is alleging racial discrimination, which is what happened. So it appears as if all of this is set in motion during the season or during the time when Brian Flores is under contract when they're colluding with Tom Brady, which means that the hiring process would have theoretically been unfair. Why did Sean Payton retire? It makes no sense. This makes no sense. They're going to have to trade him to Miami. And now Brian Flores' lawsuit blows the lid off of this whole thing. Stephen Ross gets freaked out. Tom Brady gets freaked out. Everybody backs off. And now Tom Brady's like, shit, what am I going to do? Remember, the timing of this is weird. He unretires after the lawsuit comes out because he's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What sent the lawsuit? What sent Brian Flores over the edge? You want to think some chess? Some see the whole board shit? This is a conspiracy theory, and I have no way of believing any of this is real. But people have theorized for years that Bill Belichick has burner accounts, and that he's paying attention to everything. What sent Brian Flores over the edge to file the lawsuit? Anybody know? It was Bill Belichick, quote unquote, accidentally sending texts to the wrong Brian. He congratulated Brian Flores on landing the Giants job when he knew that Brian Daboll was going to get the Giants job. Because if all of this goes down smoothly and Brady goes to Miami, Belichick's got to play Tom Brady twice a year. What a pain in the ass on a roster that's significantly better than his, or at least trending that way. Is it possible that he did that just as an old man and he didn't read the stuff? That happens to people all the time. There are a lot of funny texts that go to the wrong person all the time. But is it also possible that he did that on purpose to piss off Brian Flores because he knows what kind of guy he is? He's worked with Flores for years. And he sends out evidence that there's collusion, that there's unfair racist hiring practices going on in the NFL so that all of this shit blows up, so that Brian Flores will get pissed off at the Dolphins. Now, you can't possibly imagine that Brian Flores would eventually sue the Dolphins in the entire NFL, but if he did, I'm saying it's not impossible because we just found out, per reporting sources inside the Boston Globe, which is a real newspaper. That's not like, no disrespect, the New York Post or Pro Football Talk. That's a real newspaper. It's one of the craziest stories ever. And now, what are they going to do? Tom Brady's got to run it back in Tampa, and now he finds out he doesn't want to play for Tampa anymore. So now, the reason it took him so long for him to unretire is because he didn't want to play for Bruce Arians anymore. So they've got to negotiate. What are they going to do with Bruce Arians to get Tom back? And Tom doesn't want to be retired, but they're not going to trade him, especially not to Miami, who has colluded. And Stephen Ross, who's probably not going to be an owner very soon. You following all of this? Crazy shit, man. Absolutely crazy. And now there are more plaintiffs in the Brian Flores lawsuit. Ooh, my goodness. This is some juicy shit. And now Bruce Arians gets a quote-unquote front office position where he's paid the exact same amount of money and has no responsibility. Oh, God, this is good. I love it. All right, let's move on to some other stuff. I'm glad that you... Thanks for sticking with me on that if you were following. Speaking of Miami Dolphins head coaches, let's hear one of their former head coaches, Colin Cowherd. Do you remember who they hired a couple times? Colin? Are you there, Bueller? Don't do it now, Internet. Internet? Oh, no. Come on, Colin. Colin! Do it. All right, here we go. Ready?
Miami was a 1-15
Right.
team. Parcells shows up just as a general manager,
Yes.
hires a coach, Tony Soprano. They go to 11 wins.
Who was that? Who did he hire?
Coach Tony Soprano.
Wait,
Coach Tony Soprano.
the guy from Sopranos? Incredible. Is he a ditz? Yes. Is it also possibly a little racist? Yes. Okay, moving on to other stories in sports. Robert. Albert Pujols is back with the Cardinals. He wanted to retire with them, of course. And everyone's like, yes, we are 100% on board with that. Albert Pujols, welcome back to St. Louis.
In the air. Out to deep left. It is gone. Welcome back, Albert.
Awesome. Good for him. Hearing rumors that he divorced his wife days after she was diagnosed with cancer. So that's cool. Good for you. We'll have to make sure that is true. But, yeah, welcome back to St. Louis, I guess. Hey, let's check in with Cam Newton and see how Cam Newton's doing. He put his foot in his mouth yesterday with regard to women, which is, remember, he famously asked a woman or told a woman at a press conference who asked him about coverage. Like, I just never seen a woman ask about coverage before. So let's hear what he has to say yesterday. This has 3.5 million views, by the way.
A perfect example of what a man was in my life by my father. My parents has been together for 36, 37 years now, and it's a beautiful thing. I grew up in a 3-parent household, my mom, my father, and my grandmother. And I knew what a woman was, not a bad bitch.
Okay, what's the difference?
A woman.
Okay.
A bad bitch is a person who's just, girl, I'm a bad bitch. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I look the part,
Oh man,
but I don't
Cam.
act the part.
Don't do it.
You know, and it's a lot of women who are bad bitches, and I say bitches in a way not to degrade a woman, but just to go off the woman for me is handling your own, but knowing how to cater to a man's needs.
Let's watch this very carefully. Watch his face right here. Watch his face. He knows he's about to say something stupid that's going to be a problem for him, but he just can't stop himself. Here we go.
Cater to a man's needs.
Oh, that pause is tough. Yeah, cater to a man's needs. Great job, Cam. Your days are probably done in the NFL. You were going to be a backup, and now you're not going to be anything. Okay, we're going to get you out of here on this saga. Former 3rd overall pick Alec Boehm, 3 errors in 1 single game, was caught saying, quote, "I fucking hate this place," about Philly. Here's the clip. You can see it on the TV. There's no sound. Oh, no, the internet just needs to be refreshed. Don't be a tool, internet. There it is. You see it? I fucking hate this place. I fucking hate this place. So how does Philly respond? Being the great city that it is, the crowd gave him, of course, a standing ovation. Listen.
28, Alec Boehm.
Look at him. That's so funny. You deserve it, bud. That's hilarious. That'll do it. That's this episode of Interesting to See. Like, rate, review, subscribe. We'll be back and better than ever tomorrow.